Did you know that Paul Rogers of Bad Company fame is separated by 3 degrees of separation from the Matrix film? This band is one of those degrees, which I will mention later on. But for now, hi people and how my Chilling Carnage crew, it's Chilly here, the man who designed for my eyes, and I'm doing a 5-minute review on Whiplash, the album by Boa. Now a lot can happen in 20 years. New governments forming, rising to power, and being voted out. New countries forming. Once in a lifetime global financial crisis, and all the meanwhile, well, a little band that I'm guessing most of you will never heard of would finally release their 3rd album after a 19-year gap between records. I never closely followed Boa or their movements, but I did know that the lead guitarist Steve had quit the band shortly after their 2nd album, which was released back in 2005. Now I kind of figured that the band were just touring the local scenes, perhaps doing some side projects, or maybe even producing albums for other musicians, as this is fairly common for some bands who don't quite make it on the scene. Whatever they were doing during this time, I knew it would be in the realm of music, however, and you will understand why a bit later on. So I was pleasantly surprised to hear of the band's newest album. However, I've been very slack in reviewing this album as it was released back in October of 2024. Sorry about that.
No more tears, no more tears. Oh, the fears, oh, the fears.
Let Me Go starts off the album with a fine pace. I can't say I would fault this song in any particular way with its groove and waltz that's found within it, and it certainly makes for an infectious piece. This flows well into the next track, Crawling, a song which tells the story of a protagonist seeking a one-night stand, I believe, and ending up falling in love. I'm not going to comment on where or how the source for this song came about, but instead I will point out how well the band play off each other for their parts to the ebb and flow on here. And truly, it's a reoccurring theme throughout this album. The band's groove is spot on, they never miss a beat, and they always find their balance. Never once do these pop tunes feel rather forced. Instead, they feel rather natural. While I couldn't say that Jasmine's vocals have held up over the years, it is certainly nothing to write home about after all. It is certainly the musicianship that holds this album together like glue. Although the track Worry fooled me for a minute, I thought this was a version of the Skyfall Bond theme when I first heard it after all.
Sing for me, let me feel released.
So earlier, I said that there was a connection to Bad Company and the Matrix film series, and Boa is one of those degrees of separation. The way that this works is that the Matrix was heavily inspired by an anime, and this anime was called Serial Experiments of Lain, released in the 90s, which if you love the Matrix series or psycho thrillers based on cult of personalities taking place on the online communities, then I can't recommend that show enough. And I'm pretty sure that this TV show also inspired Summer Wars to some degree, which is another anime that I would also recommend if you haven't seen that already. Anyway, this TV show used the song Duvet for their intro clip, which was written by Boa for their debut album. And Boa themselves were formed by Steve Rogers, not Captain America of course, but instead the son of Paul Rogers from Bad Company fame. And the vocalist Jasmine would join the band later on. Jasmine is also the sister of Steve and also the daughter of Paul. So there's your 3 degrees of separation right there. As for the music on hand, I think I could best surmise it as being adult contemporary pop rock, which might not be everyone's jam. However, Boa have been writing this style of music ever since the band's inception some 25 plus years ago. It's also one of the biggest flaws surrounding this record, because if you're familiar with the first album, then this record doesn't really change the formula too much. Instead, it rehashes the ideas from their older album while reeling in and compressing the more experimental sounds that can be heard on there. It's not bad music, it just feels formulaic and somewhat repetitive and comes across as a little bit generic. If you're familiar with their works, then you're going to enjoy this album, and there is certainly no reason why you shouldn't check it out. I'd say it's marginally better than their 2005 release, Get There, but that may be due to the fact that I haven't really listened to that album in full in such a long time. I guess the question pondering long-term fans of the band will be, was the wait worth it? And to a degree, it kind of was, even though it came out 20 years too late and feels somewhat underwhelming. I guess the more I talk about this album, the less appealing it sounds, but trust me, the opposite is true. You just have to ask yourself, why now? I mean, this album signifies the first time that Jasmine has recorded her guitar parts as she took over those duties shortly after Steve's departure. And in a way, that sound is very reminiscent of her brother's guitar work, to the point that you can almost swear he'd never left the band. But you have to keep in mind, she took over the guitar duties and has emulated Steve Rogers' style for the last 20 years as well. I guess Steve's input can be summed up as an adept guitarist who sounded like 24 others from around about that era. He never carved out a signature sound, and anyone really could have replaced him. But his role in the band has since been filled by Sister Jasmine, of course, and I wonder if she took it upon herself taking up that guitar mantle given her heritage. She does a good job at playing the guitar in her style, of course, but like I mentioned, she's been doing it for 20 freaking years, so I would expect nothing less at this stage. I just kind of had to ponder, does she have any signature sound herself, or is she just emulating what she's heard for the past couple of decades? Overall, I'm going to give this album a score of 4.5 million chilies on the spicy scale, with my favourite tracks being Let Me Go, Walk With Me, and Beautiful and Broken. Good, but not great. That's how this review ends. It's fine, but not a great album. The main issues that lie from this album, simply put, is no album was going to suffice the 19-year gap. It was just never going to fill that void. It lacks the flair found on their first efforts, but even when it was there, it was few and far between. If anything, it's about the genre of the musicianship here, and of course the age of the musicians, which scares the shit out of me most, knowing how close I am to that group. Anyway, listen to this album for yourself, let me know your thoughts, and comment below as to what your favourite tracks were. Thank you for checking out this review, make sure to smash that like button, and don't forget to stay spicy out there, everyone. If you've enjoyed this content, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to us, and stay notified for future music related content, because it keeps our manager happy at the end of the day. We are also on Discord, Instagram, Facebook, and all those other social platforms if you want to check us out. As always, people, you have a great day and stay spicy.